5 PT Cruiser, and I'm replacing this AC compressor on here. I just wanted to show you, first of all, a few of the things I've removed to get some access. We took the front grill off. We've also removed this brace here. It has a couple of, actually 3 bolts over here and 3 bolts here, and then this comes off. And as far as the grill, it's just held by a couple of these screws on each side here. So it's pretty simple really to get it to this point. This just gives you a little bit more room to maneuver this around, which we're going to need when it comes to getting down in there. Now you'll notice that I've already had the system drained Freon. I've taken the 2 bolts that hold those lines there, and I'm just getting ready to remove those. I've cleaned around that real well. Now I've also took the 4 bolts that are holding the compressor that go in through the front there, and they look like this. There's just 4 of those. It's kind of tight getting in there. You'll want to use a ratchet wrench if you've got one in some places there. And anyways, I'll show you putting it back, but I've got it to this point. And said another thing I have taken loose is the brackets holding my power steering line, you see there, because that's going to get in the way when we go to hook up our high pressure gauge later. And you can see that black cap right there. So it's going to be kind of difficult, and that's another reason. That's why I took this up here out of the way, because it's going to give me a little bit more room to get access to that. So right now, like I said, I got those loose. There is a connector on the back there. You see that gray connector right there. There's a red safety lock on that you have to pull back. And you may need to use a screwdriver as well, and then carefully depress that on the bottom and pull that off. And we also have another connector that you can't really see too well here, but it's got a red safety lock on it as well. And we're going to have to pull this thing down a little bit more to be able to get to that one. And then I'll follow up once we get that work down a little bit here. Okay, I've wiggled my low and high pressure lines loose there out of the body, you can see, and just this other wire connector, push this safety lock back, and then we can just push this, press this down and get that off. And once we get that, we're able to just kind of, this thing will just kind of fall down, just kind of work it around. Be careful with your lines and don't damage them. Okay, and this is my replacement AC compressor. This come off of a 2009 PT Cruiser, and mine's a 2005. These are identical with the model number and everything on here. And so just had this covered a little bit now to keep any debris. I'm going to go under and just check my lines, make sure there's no debris that's got on them. And we're going to go ahead and start feeding this up in here and get my lines reconnected here. Okay, right now I've just carefully fed this up in here, and I've worked my lines. I got this high pressure on this back port and this low here on the front, and I've just worked them down into their ports, and then I'm going to get a small ratchet and finish tightening those, or I may go up top with an extension, but I've just kind of got it sitting there loose for now until I get these snugged down, and then I'll move it over into position on the bracket here. Okay, before I get the bolts in, I'm getting ready to connect these connectors here, and here's the one that goes on the top back here. And you just kind of have to feel for this because it's kind of hard to see from down here. You could see it from up top better if you can you can reach it. We're going to go ahead and get that one, and then this one right here connected, and then I'll go ahead and get my 4 bolts back in here. Just want to make sure I can get access to these here first before I move any farther. Okay, now we got our 4 bolts that go into the bracket here, and I've just got it setting. You can see the little ledge this compressor sets on, and it's just sitting there. After I've kind of wiggled it around and got my connectors, I've got it sitting there. I'm going to also make sure before I tighten any of these that I can in fact get all of the bolts started, because it seems like I had some trouble taking them out, that I had to wiggle it around in order to get every single bolt out. So I'm going to make absolutely sure that before I go to tightening on any of these that I can get these all in. So we got our connectors fastened up, so once we get this, we'll go ahead and work on getting our belt put back on the front there. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I took this power steering line loose. You got a couple of 15 millimeters that hold that, and I also took it loose right here where you see this. I took that 15 out from up there. Now the reason I've done that, because this line, I got the sun glaring there, but this line that you see moving tries to get right in the way, so you're going to have to move that a little bit. And also, when you go to trying to put this back, if you got the lines on already like I did, it'll try to get in the way, so you'll have to move that out of the way a little bit. And we'll also have to move that when we get ready to get our gauges set up on here to do the vacuum on it. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got all my bolts started here, and they started just fine. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get these tightened down now. Okay, we're getting ready to get our belt back on the compressor and our serpentine here. And I've got a 15 on that tensioner. We're just going to push that wrench towards the rear of the car, and then we'll be slipping this back on. And the way you put it on, it's kind of got like a heart shape to it, the way it routes up around the power steering down to the AC, and then over to the crank, and then the tensioner in the middle like that. Okay, after getting the belt back on, the compressor was all finished up. I just went ahead and put the tire back on and put my front back on here for now. And that's pretty much all there is to that. I'm going to be recharging the AC and evacuating that at a later time, but hopefully that's been helpful. Thanks for watching.